Hello everyone and welcome to day 2 of remote learning. We are covering section 2 of our 2D unit, which is on area and circumference of circles. Before we get into our formulas, we're going to just take a minute and refresh our memory of the different pieces of a circle. So we have the distance all the way around the circle, which is the circumference, which we label as C. We have the diameter, which is the distance from one point on the circle all the way across to meet on the other side of the circle, and that's what we call the diameter, and that is labeled as a D. And then we have the radius, which is half of the distance of the diameter. It's the distance from the very center of the circle to the edge, and that is the radius, which we label with an R. All right. Now that we've reviewed the parts of a circle, we're going to go ahead and get into our formulas. So the formula for the area of a circle is area is equal to pi times the radius squared. Pi r squared. All right, the circumference of a circle is not far off. The circumference is equal to 2 times pi times r. 2 times pi times the radius. Be careful not to mix those up. Area is r squared. Circumference is r times 2. One way to help you remember that might be that when you are finding the area, you end up with some units squared, so like inches squared, meters squared, centimeters squared. Radius is also squared. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to example number 1. Example number 1 says find the area and circumference of the circle below. So let's go ahead and start with area because that's what was in the question first. So I have area is equal to pi times r squared. That's my formula. When I'm looking at this picture, I know that my radius is the distance from the center of the circle to the edge of the circle. So that means that my radius is equal to 7 in this case. So I have area is equal to pi times 7 squared. I know that 7 squared is 49, so I really have 49 pi. That is a terrible looking 9. I'm going to fix that a second. It looked almost like a 5. All right, 49 times pi. If we were answering in terms of pi, you would just leave it as is, 49 pi. In fact, you don't even need that multiplication symbol in there. You can just write it 49 pi. However, unless it says to answer in terms of pi, you want to write it as a decimal, and you want to make sure you're giving me at least 2 decimal points, which would mean that you're rounding to the nearest hundredth. All right, so if I'm doing that in my calculator, and let's just go ahead and switch to the calculator that I have that's almost a graphing calculator. Well, it is a graphing calculator. It's more of an emulator though. And let's go ahead and type that in. I have 49, and I don't have to put times, but you can, times. And now I'm looking in my calculator buttons for the pi symbol. In most calculators, you have to hit the second button, and then there's this little caret key, or what looks like a tint right above the division symbol. When you hit that after hitting second, it gives you the pi symbol. So I have 49 times pi, and that is equal to 153.938. I'm going to round up so that 8 tells me to round up. So instead of 0.93, I'm going to have 0.94. So let's go back to our notes here a second. That means that area is equal to, well, not equal to, it's about equal to. So let's fix that. We have area is about equal to 153.943 feet squared. All right, so that's part one. Part two, we have to find the circumference. So I have my formula is C is equal to 2 times pi times r. I already figured out for finding the area that my radius is 7. So what I really have is 2 times pi times 7. 7 times 2 is 14, so I have 14 pi. 14 times pi, again, you're typing the symbol into your calculator. 14 times pi gives me a circumference that is about equal, not is equal, it's about because we're rounding, about equal to, I'm having trouble writing this symbol. Let's go back and fix that. About equal to 43.98 feet. All right. Example number 2. Find the area and circumference of a circle with a diameter of 12 feet. Okay. Doesn't give me my radius, it gives me my diameter. Be really careful with that. It might be something you forgot, but I mentioned it in the beginning of this video too, that the diameter is equal to 2 times the radius. Or another way sometimes people put that is the radius is equal to the diameter divided by 2. All right. Something I did not mention, but you might see the connection right now if we start with circumference. In the circumference formula, it says that C is equal to 2 times pi times r, and we can rearrange that to say that we have 2 times r times pi. What did we just say was equal to 2 times r? The diameter. We said the diameter was equal to 2 times r. So that means that we can just replace that. So that is actually equal to the diameter times pi. That's an alternate formula. It's really the same thing. So instead of doing 12 divided by 2 is 6, 6 times 2 is 12 times pi, you don't need to worry about that. You can just type your diameter in. So our circumference is equal to, in this situation, 12 pi. So C is about equal to 37.699. I'm putting 3 there just to make our rounding easier for our notes. And now we have to find our area. For our area, you do have to find the radius. So diameter divided by 2, 12 divided by 2 is 6. So that's the radius. So I'm going to plug that into my formula of area is equal to pi times the radius squared. 6 squared is equal to 36, so I have 36 pi, which means the area of my circle is about equal to 113.097 square feet. All right. We're going to continue on. Example 3 says a circle has a circumference of 24 pi. Find its area. Okay, so our circumference formula is C is equal to 2 times pi times r. And it's saying that our circumference is equal to 24 pi. So I have 24 pi is equal to 2 times pi times r. I'm going to go ahead and divide out 2 pi at the same time to get the radius by itself. So 2 times pi, dividing out on both sides. The pi's cancel out. 24 divided by 2 is 12. That means that my radius is equal to 12. Because I now have the radius, I can now find the area. So I have area is equal to pi times r squared. I'm going to go ahead and plug my r in. So I have pi times 12 squared. 12 squared is equal to 144. So I have 144 pi, which means that my area is about equal to 452.39. And notice that when it gave me the circumference, it said 24 pi. It didn't give me any units. So if I were to label this, I would have to use the word units itself. I'm going to go ahead and just leave that off today. So I have area is equal to 452.39. Well, about. All right. Example 4. Find the area and circumference of the circle below. Leave your answers in terms of pi. Okay, so this is that special circumstance that I was talking about before. This time, we're not putting a decimal because it's telling us to leave it in terms of pi. So we're going to go ahead and start with identifying the radius here. And in our picture, it's shown to be 3 centimeters. So r is equal to 3 centimeters. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take that and plug it into my formula. So I have area is equal to pi times the radius squared. The radius happens to be 3 centimeters, so we're going to plug that in. So I have pi times 3 squared, which means that I have 9 pi. So I'm leaving it in terms of pi, so that is it. That's all my work right there. Area is equal to 9 pi. Now I'm going to go ahead and find my circumference. Circumference is equal to 2 times pi times r. I'm going to plug my radius in. 2 times pi times 3 is what we now have. 3 times 2 is equal to 6. So when I write this in terms of pi, c is equal to 6 pi. And that would be it, except I just realized I forgot to add the units. So I'm going to add those in real quick. So the area is always squared, and we're in terms of centimeters. So we have 9 pi centimeters squared. And my circumference is 6 pi centimeters. And that fixes our problem, and now we are all set.